figures. There's 8 of them here. Disclaimer, no one has been able to do E yet, so if you can do E, let me know. But the object is to trace the figure without lifting your pencil, and you can't retrace a line. So for example, if we were going to do A, it's pretty simple. We would just do that. Didn't lift my pencil, didn't retrace any lines. Everybody got it? So you guys can work on that while I'm waiting for everybody. Do it on your desk with your finger. They obviously get harder as they go on, so I don't have any paper with me. Sorry, I
heard the nonverbal.
But if you guys, I see some people are going. Do you need paper?
Yes, please.
Okay. Here. I can give you some of my scrap paper. How about that? Look, they're all back there.
There is one right there. So this right here, the list. Chairs. Walk right there.
Anybody else need paper?
Thank you. Yes. Nice little wedge.
I see lots of little brains working.
Walk around, be mature.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure if E is possible because no one has been able to do E.
Yeah, he's not possible. Got a whole entire area on this side. The pillar here. And then it goes to the other side. Yeah, I think I should get some pizza. Thanks.
Yeah. Anybody figure out E?
You know how to do E?
I don't. I have not been able to figure out E, so I'm not sure it can be done. Could be a trick.
You ruined it. I had it until you said
Oh yeah. They're all easy. I'm wondering how people get Oh yeah, I got them all. I think that's actually the point. Oh, you just go and shut down the room. For high defense, I'd be out. That in your resume. Finding out I feel like she was in Europe.
Sorry, you guys lost.
Maybe she's that
Wait,
double agent.
so you have to trace it, you can't
She's
use a
that
pencil, and
person.
you can't
She's
pull
just that
out.
kind of person.
That's the hard part.
I can't get past
310. Okay. I'd be happy to, if anyone wants to copy these down before you leave today, I'd be happy to give them to you if you're that excited about it and want to work on it when you get home. So I'm going to go back to the start of my presentation. But before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Kate Berg. I work for a company called Career Training Concepts. Basically, all I do is I have the best job in the world. I travel around to high schools, and I give presentations like I'm doing today on a whole variety of topics. But today, we're going to specifically be talking about success skills. We're going to cover study skills, test-taking skills, goal setting as well. You guys have your action plans. We're going to work on that as well. But hopefully, you guys will learn something, have fun while doing it, and the most important part, which is get something out of it and take action for whatever you're going to do with your future. Before we start, I have another activity. I like to do lots of activities in my presentations. I'm going to give you 20 seconds. Try and memorize these words without writing them down. Can't see them? The podium? Oh, shoot. Sorry. All right, that's it. You're young, you have youthful brains, that's all you get. So, why we're here today. What do you think are the factors that make a successful student? There's more than one answer, but let's start off. Why don't you guys call a couple out? Okay, I'll start, and then you can call a couple out. Obviously, good study habits. I consider strong memory power, which I'm going to talk about later, as being an important skill to have. Test-taking skills, motivation, initiative, good decision-making, and problem-solving skills. The last 4 things I cannot really teach you. Those are things that have to come within. They're not things that I can give you a list of things that will help you. That's just something that you're going to have to learn for yourself. I'm going to give you a quick example of that comes from my life. So I was raised by a single mom, and my father was out of the picture. At 15, I got arrested. At 16, I had 5 friends die of either drinking or drugs. And by 17, I pretty much stopped going to school. So I decided one day, my mom came in the room, she said, just stop going to school. It's your life, do whatever you want, just stop going. And that day I decided that I didn't want to do that. I decided I want to be better than that. So I went to night school and I graduated. And I graduated with my bachelor's degree at 22 and then my master's at 24. And been successful ever since. So that's what I mean by decision-making skills. You can make one decision that will affect the rest of your life. Sometimes you can make bad decisions like I did and get away with it and be okay. Sometimes it only takes one thing. So that's why I stress that. Same thing with motivation initiative. That has to come with it. So there's a really famous book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's basically a research book that says these 7 things, if you do these, the person that you will become will be successful. The first one is be proactive. That's being responsible, taking initiative. Begin with the end in mind, being goal-oriented. Always having something that you're striving for. Even if you achieve one thing, you're always going for something else. Put first things first. That means prioritize. Not doing Facebook first, doing homework first, then doing Facebook. Think win-win. That you're not always trying to one-up somebody, you're trying to work together as a team. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. That means you're listening before you're trying to explain yourself. Synergize, work together again. It's all about teamwork. And the last thing, sharpen the saw, which means renew yourself. Take care of yourself, your mind and your body. Always strive to learn more. Keep your brain going. We already did that. So why do you need to learn these things? Well, obviously the first thing, the most important thing is we want you to get good grades. The better grades you get, the better chance of getting into a good school. The more education you have, the more opportunities you have. The more education you have, the more money you make. The more money you make, the more satisfied you are. The list goes on. We want you to be happy, self-satisfied. We also want your parents, teachers to be proud of you. You can learn more in less time if you can master these skills. That way you can do other things. You don't have to spend your entire life studying. And the most important thing, I think, is that research shows that the expectations are getting greater. So I put this little statistic here. Did you know that the United States ranked 14th in an assessment of education systems in the world, excuse me. Do you think that's good? Kind of good, right? Do you want to know what the other countries were? So these are the countries that scored higher than us. Somebody tell me what you think this implies about our education system. What is this? Sorry? That it sucks. That it sucks? Okay, what else?
Oh, yeah.
Not as rigorous.
Maybe our education is not as rigorous. Absolutely. Anything else?
The school day.
Maybe our school day isn't
Not
longer.
longer, or long enough for hours set. Something like that.
And the importance of this is we are a great country, a great nation, and we're always competing with other countries for medicine, technology, inventions, things like that. We want to be able to compete with the rest of the world. We don't want to be 14th, we want to be higher than that. So what's going to happen? It's going to get harder. It's already harder for you from when I was in school. I remember being in high school and thinking it was really hard, and I go into high schools now and I think, wow, this is harder than when I was in school. So expect for things to get harder. And then, and also when you go on to jobs and whatnot, you will always be expected to learn more. Keep up with the cutting edge. You have to stand out from the person that's next to you. So how are you going to do that? These are just some basic things that I know you guys know, but I'll just briefly go through them. There are ways that you can study efficiently. I put that little picture there because oftentimes I see students studying with the TV on, their music on, headphones in. You know, those things, it's not a way for you to really retain the information that you need to retain. You need to be able to follow directions. That means doing a project, doing an activity the correct way, avoiding procrastination, being organized, studying proactively, again, going back to those 7 habits of effective people, not waiting until the last minute, you're doing it proactively, a little bit a day. Taking pride in your work, I can't stress how important that is as well. You could be really smart and you could just kind of breeze through school, but if you're not taking pride in your work, it's not going to matter because you're not doing the best you can do. Avoiding procrastination. Anybody procrastinate? I procrastinate. I will admit to it. It is hard not to procrastinate sometimes. However, what usually happens when you procrastinate? You wait until the last minute, you're like, oh, I have a test tomorrow, and I haven't studied one bit. What immediately happens? Okay, you automatically are stressed out to the max, right? You're stressed out, you're in a bad mood, you're anxious, you're nervous, you're cramming, which research shows that you cannot cram, it doesn't work. I'll show you why in a little bit. And you don't do your best, obviously, because you didn't put in the time, you didn't put in the effort. So the key is to use time management for your case. Make a schedule, stick to the schedule, and then break it into smaller chunks. So for example, and this you may already be experiencing this now, but in college it is not uncommon for a teacher to say, by the next class I want you to have read chapters 1 and 2. You have other classes, you may be working, you may have other things going on. Well, chapters 1 and 2, that might be 100, 150 pages. You're not going to have somebody telling you when to read, how to read. You're going to be responsible for doing that on your own. So you make a schedule, you set it up from 2 to 2:30. In between my break from class, I'm going to read my 20 pages, and every day you cross it off. What does the signaling of crossing off a task do to your brain, you think?
Finished.
Say it again?
Finished.
It tells you, yes, I've completed that. That's kind of like a yes, kind of a little motivation piece. I've completed a task, and what else? Keeps you going, right? You're more motivated. Well, I did my 20 pages today, I can do my 20 pages tomorrow. No big deal. Staying organized, I can't stress that enough as well. Organize work as you get it. I know that's easier said than done, but it's a lot easier if you do that. You know, there's lots of ways in which you can be organized. Colors, days, times, you can do it by your school schedule, you can do it by, if you have subjects and you want to do it color-coded, tabs, folders, however you want to do it. There's lots of ways to do it, but do it. Have a special folder for your homework, things you need to turn in that day, have other things that need to be signed and you need to return, things like that. Time management. This is a really great approach that I still use to this day. It's called the quadrant approach, and it's really easy to do. Basically what you do is you get a piece of paper and you draw 4 boxes. And you label them 1 through 4. Box 1 are things that are going on in your life that are very important and they're urgent. They're time sensitive. So things that would fall into this category would be tests that are going on that week, projects that are due, appointments that you need to make. Your work schedule probably needs to go in that for those of you that work. And then you have the box important but not urgent. So things that you need to keep your eye on, right? You're still kind of monitoring this activity or event that's going on, but it's not time sensitive. So this could be something like a science fair project. It's due at the end of the semester. You don't want to wait until the end of the semester to do it. So things like, okay, well, I'll write my hypothesis maybe next week. I'll then write my next section, so on. Then you have box 3, not important but urgent. It's kind of a weird thing to think about. How can something be urgent but not important? But these are things that come up all the time. We have, crises that come up and things that come up, right? So those things. And then the last one, not urgent and not important. What can fit into that box? Say that louder. Instagram, Facebook. I love Pinterest, so that's what I spend my not urgent, not important time on. I really love pictures. So again, I want you to have time for yourselves to have, be young and have fun and do all those things, but prioritize them. Get the first things done first, and then work on the other things later. We're good. All right, now studying actively. There's a difference between just reading your notes, or just reading your textbook, or just sitting in class, and studying and participating actively. You can do this a number of ways. Taking notes, underlining, highlighting, circling, writing keywords. There's a number of things you can do. I don't care what you do. You can even doodle for all I care. But the important thing is that you're actively participating in the subject. And when you're writing and doodling and circling and highlighting, again, that's signaling to your brain that this is something important. So I put some examples here of things that you can use. Who uses graphic organizers? Anybody? Do you see them in school often? Really? Only one person? Okay. I was thinking I'd see more hands than that, because these are quite used extensively in school. Graphic organizers are really good because it organizes information in a way that's going to keep you remembering and retaining information. So you've got your web, that's great for writing. You've got KWL chart, which is good for study, Venn diagrams, which is good for science. Lots of good things you can use there. Okay, another little activity. Did you guys know that your brain has two different sides and they do different things? You have a left side of your brain and a right side of your brain. So what I want you guys to do as a group is look at this chart here, and I want you to say the color, not the word, and go down first and go over the columns. So starting with the word there would be yellow. Go ahead.
So
Black.
green, yellow, red, black.
You're saying the color, not the word. Oh, what color is it? I think it's red.
There's not a blue in there. There's not a blue in there.
Purple is green.
No, purple is the light thing.
All right. You guys have trouble with that? A little bit?
Catching the color of the
The reason that you probably had a little bit of trouble with that, maybe it's just the first couple words, that's called a left-right brain conflict. And it's basically your left side of your brain, which is responsible for all the verbal data parts, the analytical parts of you, thinking about numbers and analyzing things, is saying, I know that word. I learned that word when I was 6 years old. I want to say that word. And your right side of your brain is responsible for creating art and being creative and music and visual and pictures and things like that, is saying, but I see this beautiful color, and that's what I'm seeing first, and that's what I'm going to say. So it conflicts. Now the reason why I'm sharing that information with you is when you're studying and you're learning and you're going through school, you want to really use both sides of your brain. You want to use your entire brain. I'm going to go into that in a minute. Some study aids. These are just examples. There's obviously tons of things you can use. Old quizzes and tests, notes, textbooks, videos, diagrams. Obviously there's a plethora of things on Google and YouTube. Flashcards telling you that got me through college. No joke. Mnemonic devices. Anybody know what that is?
What's a vocabulary?
Vocabulary? I'm going to show you an example of it in just a minute, but it's basically a way to learn vocabulary or learn facts by using rapping and rhyming. There was a really big study done in, I believe, Philadelphia, where they took a bunch of third graders who were behind in reading skills. and they taught the kids raps and rhymes. And they saw that the kids' fluency, or the ability to sound out and read words, increased by like 30%. So it doesn't work for everybody, but it is a way that you can use to help yourself. Really quickly, I want to talk about the difference between memorizing something and learning something. Memorizing something could be like when you memorized your ABCs, right? In the beginning, it was a song that you learned in school. It was something that you would practice in your kindergarten, circle time, and then eventually you learned it. So we can use memory and able to learn things. But memorizing something before a test, cramming vocab words before a test, doesn't mean you'll learn it. So there's a difference there. We want you to try and learn things so that you can recall them later in your life. And memory is, if you didn't know, your ability to store and retain information. And a lot of people will say, well, Miss Berg, I have a horrible memory. I can't use memory. And that's just not true. You just have to learn ways in which you can become better memorizers, if that's such a word. So really quick, there's 3 types of memory. Sensory, which of course uses your senses. Who thinks they can give me an example of a memory that is based off of smell?
Popcorn.
Popcorn? Definitely. If you were to walk into a movie theater, what is the first thing you're going to smell?
Popcorn.
Popcorn. How about you're walking in from being outside and it's Thanksgiving Day and you walk into your kitchen?
Chicken.
Turkey, pumpkin pie. There's lots of memories. There are memories that help us as well. So, for example, if you were to smell smoke, what does that tell you?
Barbecue.
Fire. Signals fire, it signals danger, right? Okay, how about taste? Can anyone think of a memory from taste? Birthday cake, definitely. How about if I were to all blindfold you and I were to give you a strawberry and a lemon? Would you know which was the strawberry and which was the lemon?
Yeah.
Okay, so you learn and memorize things based off of your senses. Then we have hearing. Anybody have a song that like anytime you hear it just brings you to a place or a person, reminds you of a person? Okay. Then you have vision, seeing things. Can anybody think of one for that? What happens if you see a stop sign? Stop. Stop. How about a red light or a green light?
Stop where you go.
It doesn't have anything else other than color, but you know your brain is telling you, okay, red means stop. Okay, and then last one, touch. Hot stove. You probably learned real quick, or maybe when you were younger, maybe only took one time for you to get burned, and you knew, okay, I don't touch the stove. But how about a bunny rabbit? You're like, oh, I want to touch the bunny rabbit because it's soft, or a puppy, you know? Okay, so just interesting in how our brain works and how it uses the brain in order to remember things. Then we've got short-term memory. That's also called working memory. It's limited to 5 to 9 facts. So again, remember when I was talking earlier about cramming, that's why it doesn't work, because your brain can only limit its capacity to 5 to 9 facts in a short period of time. Forgets everything else. Usually only holds for 30 seconds, and it usually gets worse with age. Long-term memory, of course. Can anybody think of an example of long-term memory? I'm sorry?
Walking.
Sure. You may have a memory of your first steps walking.
Your name?
Your name? Definitely. Used to be phone number, but not anymore, because we have phones that do that for us. But I remember when I was in school, we had to memorize our home phone number because, if we got lost, we had to be able to know our address and our phone number. Not anymore. Typically, long-term memories also are associated with happy thoughts, right? You think of vacations and graduation days and birthdays and weddings, and sad things as well. Sad things that happen, traumatic things that happen to us, scary things that happen to us. So there's a lot of emotions involved in that. So again, using your whole brain. Did you guys also know that you have a learning style? Every person has a dominant way in which their brain learns. Maybe you're the type who's an auditory learner. You can listen to a song and memorize every single word like the first time you ever heard it. Anybody like that? Or they can go, are you like that? Or you can go into a lecture and you can not take any notes and remember everything that the teacher said. There's visual learners. These are people who learn best off of pictures and videos, cartoons, bright pictures and colors. And then kinesthetic learners are people who need to do it. They need to be up and moving around, active. You like to do labs. You like to, if you want to learn how to drive, you want to drive. You don't want to read about it in the book, you want to do it. Anybody think they can identify which one they are? Usually you'll have one dominant one. Sometimes you'll have two strong ones. Because I have two. I'm definitely not auditory. For some reason it goes in my brain and out the other, and I don't know what you just said. I have a really hard time listening to people, so I'm not auditory. Mnemonics is a memory tool that you can use. It's method for remembering information. The sillier and weirder, the better, and I'm sure you've heard some of these before. I before E except after C. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. I think it's Roy B. Gibb, but it might be Roy G. Biv.
Yes.
Okay, it is Roy G. Biv. I have to fix that. Never eat shredded wheats. Every good boy does fine. My very educated mother just saw Uncle Nick. I remember these from when I was in school. They're stupid, they're silly, but for some reason they help you remember stuff. Can you guys think of another one that's not on my list? There's a big one that's used in math for the order of operations, PEMDAS. Like, who in the right mind would normally remember PEMDAS, but for some reason you remember it? And it helps you because it's giving you, not only is it giving you the order of operations, but it's putting it in the order that you need to remember them.
Oh, I know.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I just learned it. It was like some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid, and then SOHCAHTOA.
SOHCAHTOA. That's another one used for math. Okay, who remembers those words from before?
I think
I am kidding, Brian. That's how I remember it. Some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. Yeah.
All right, you remember how? All right, let's see if you got it.
There's mouse, fur, train, river, popcorn, elephant, toothbrush, umbrella.
Good, I think. Yeah.
Toothbrush
Nice.
and umbrella.
Nice. That was impressive. Okay. Now try these pairs of words. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Try these pairs. You have to keep the two words together. Okay? So try that. I'm going to give you 30 seconds.
Toothbrush cake.
Okay. Who remembers the pair? Mouse, S, R, train, river, how'd you guys do that?
Because you just showed it to us.
I already
How'd you do it? Oh, cheaters! I could tell you probably what your brain did. It's called something like association. And what your brain does is it tries to make an association between the two words to help you better remember those pairs. So, mouse is for a train goes over a bridge, a river boat, or a boat goes down a river. You eat popcorn in a chair, right? An elephant squashes a pancake. Come on, that wasn't the first thing you thought of?
A cake that looks like a toothbrush?
You have to brush your teeth after you eat cake, and an umbrella looks like a triangle. This is called association. Your brain will actively try to make a connection between the two words to help you remember things. So use that to your advantage. The brain is amazing in how it works, but use that to your advantage. I can't believe I'm actually finished on time. I'm so proud of myself. Testing skills. Obviously, you guys know a lot of this stuff, but just to reiterate, always ask what the test is going to cover. If your teacher doesn't tell you, that doesn't mean that they're not going to give you the answer if you ask them. They're looking for students who are going to take the initiative. Go find out. If they don't tell you, go ask. That's true for college as well. Should I make sure that I read, chapters 1 through 5? And they tell you don't, only covers 1 through 4? Why are you going to spend your time going through chapter 5? Again, we're trying to maximize your time here. So don't do more than you don't have to. What kind of test is it going to be? Because there are different styles of test taking for different types of tests. If you have an essay test, that's way different how you're going to study than a multiple choice test. You need to know a lot more detail, a lot more overview of the information. What type of questions? Is it timed? That's a huge one. ACT is time. That's a whole other skill you have to master, making sure that you have enough time to answer every single question. That's something you have to practice. How to prepare for tests? My bottom there on my pyramid is time management, because the two things there, the bulk of the things are, if you spend your time participating in class, attending class, and using your time wisely, then you really don't even have to worry about the top two. Because you already know the information. You've been proactively studying the whole time, throughout every week you've been participating in class. You're 75% done. The only last couple things you have to do is actually taking the test, not freaking yourself out. So we're done. I want to show you a quick video. It's 5 minutes, but I think that'll give us good time, and it'll get you really excited for your action planning that we're going to do next. I'm hoping you guys can hear it.
Oh, I've seen this one.
Bear with me. Oh, do I have to do all that? Okay. Maybe I'm not going to show you video. Just kidding. Oh, no. Okay, never mind. Anybody have any questions? Concerns? Now you're going to take what you learned all throughout the day, and I'm going to have my helpers here. They're going to help us. We're going to plan how you're going to take the information that you learned from today and apply it. What are you going to do? And so the sheets are coming around. So what you're doing here with your action plan is coming up with some goals that you want to achieve by June 15th of this year. And so you're going to come up with some steps that you need to take to achieve those goals. And along with that, you're going to write the steps. You're going to write some challenges that might come up with those steps. You're going to write the resources you need to have to be able to complete that step. And then you're going to write who is responsible for completing that step. So if you have a few steps to reach your overall goal, that will be great. Be sure you're writing hard enough to get to the final page, because it needs to copy down onto the final page. When you're done, meet me the white copy. You're going to write your address on this envelope and put the yellow copy in the envelope. No, I'm sorry. Complete copy, right? We want the white copy.
You're gonna keep the yellow copy, and the pink copy is gonna go in an envelope, and you're gonna write your address on it. Then you will give that envelope back to us. So the things that you're giving back to us are your envelope with your address, with your pink, and the white, okay? And we will come around and talk.
Make sure to print legibly and press pretty hard. Yeah, it's usually a lot of traffic. Yeah, because that's the end of that.
No problem.
Are you supposed to film everything?
Yeah, basically. So this is it. That's all there is. Should we just back up? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're not gonna be talking much.
Alright. Go back to Lori and find the log.
Make sure it's an attainable goal that you can do by June of this year. It can be on anything that, any of the workshops that you went on today. It doesn't have to be just this workshop. It could be anything that you plan to do as a result of something you learned.
To become
That can be
16,
done
you
as an
don't
action by June of 15.
And thinking about actionable steps, let's use, for example, if you're going to do something. What would be your first step? Right? You want to do some research. So research is
go to
steps.
jail.
Going
First thing you
online,
want to do.
looking for different types of jobs. That's
That
an
way,
action
they'll
step,
do your
right?
job
Next
if you
action
go to
step
jail.
would be find someone you could follow or shadow. That's an action step. Filling out a job application. That's an action step.
You don't
Following up with that person, that's an action step.
you got your
So think
inmates to
about
set.
what action steps you're gonna take.
Out there free food.
Yeah, I used to have a problem with that. A bunch of poor people are intentionally going to jail because they couldn't
If
afford
anybody
real
gets
life.
stuck or has a question, you can just raise your hand and one of us will come and help you.